Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In this video, we will discuss about nested loops. Specifically, we will discuss about nested for loops. So, whenever we wanted to execute a block of code more number of times, at that time we will use loops, right? So, but what if we wanted to execute a loop itself more number of times? At that time, we will use nested loops. So, let's go ahead and understand this through its syntax. Let's say I am having a block of code, so I wanted to execute this block of code more number of times. At that time, what I can do is that i can do I can put this block inside of a loop. So now we will use for loop. Because of that reason, I am putting for loop. So let us take this for loop. I am putting this block of code inside of this for loop, right? So what if I wanted to execute this loop itself more number of times? At that time, I can put this loop itself in one more loop. So I am putting one more for loop here, and I am making this as a block. So now I can execute this for loop block more number of times by using this outside loop. So initially, for one iteration of this loop, this will be executed, this start executing, and this code will be iterate how many number of times this inner for loop having. So I hope you have understood little bit, and I will make you understand more clearly by an example. Let's say I wanted to print 1, 2, 3, and so on till 10. I wanted to print the values 1 to 10. This considered as a repeating block. So I am having the number, I am incrementing the number each time. So I can put this in a block, right? So I will do that first of all. So now what I will be considering is for I in range, I will start with 1, I will end with 10. So because of that reason, I am mentioning 11, and 11 is not considered till 10 only considered. Because of that reason, I am putting 11. So now I will just print the value as I. If I plainly execute this, I will get the result in a new line like this. So I don't want to print like this. I want to print everything as a single line. So I am putting end equal to like this. We have discussed all this concept in our previous video. If you are not seen those videos, you can actually see those videos in my channel. So this is how I can able to print these values in a single line. Now I wanted to print these values 1, 2, 3, and so on 10 for 5 different number of times. I want to print this 5 number of times. How we can do that? We can actually put this loop itself inside of another loop. By putting that, we can actually print this same 1 to 10 values 5 number of times. Agree? So let me write the right code for that. For j in range 1 till 6, I want to print 5 number of times. Because of that reason, I am mentioning 6. It will stop at 5. So I am putting this inside of this for loop. So if I execute this, I will be getting everything in a single line. I don't want everything as a single line. I want in a new line for every 10 number of 10 values. So because of that reason, I am putting a print here. I will explain how this works. Don't worry about that now itself. So I wanted to print this outer value also. So I am mentioning j here. So now at last you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let us make this more meaningful by proper naming conventions. I am putting outer in this outer loop. I am putting inner in this inner for loop. And I will be putting inner in this inner for loop. And I will be putting outer in this outer for loop. If I execute this, I can get the same result. So now I will explain how it was working. So we will starting with outer for loop. Outer for loop start with 1 and end with 5. This is the range of values that we are putting in this outer for loop. Whenever it start with 1, it will enter inside of this for loop. As and when it enters into inside of this for loop, it will start with 1 to 10. So the first value is 1, and it will go inside of this block. It will print the value, and next it will go until 10 values, because the range is 1 to 10, and it will print 1, and it will, and end is space, it will print a space here, and it will go for 2 and 3, 4, 5 until it reaches the end of this range, which is of 10. So like that I can able to print the first line. So this range is completed. As and when this range is completed, it will come out of this loop. As and when it comes out of this loop, we have one statement which is of outer. We have initially the first iteration, we have the value 1. So because of that reason I am getting the value as 1. So this iteration is completed. Now we will start with a second iteration, which will be I value. This outer value will become 2 now. So as and when the outer value becomes 2, it will enter into this block. We have for loop here. So it will start executing this for loop. Now it again start with 1 till 10. So it will start printing 1 2 3 and so on 10. Like this I can able to get the second line 1 to 10. As and when this range is completed, it will come out of this loop. As and when this comes out of this loop, I have one statement which is of outer. We have the outer value as 2 now. So because of that reason I can able to see the 2 value here. Like this, these loops are repeating until this range is completed. This range completes only when the outer value reaches to 5. Outer value, as and when outer value reaches to 5, it will stop this executing, and we can come out of this loop. So I will print one more statement. Loop is completed. Loop is completed. So if I execute this after one, these iterations are completed, it will come out and print this statement as loop is completed. I hope you can able to understand by this example of how we can use nested loops. Let me give you one more scenario and where you can use these outer loops. In general, if we want to access a list and elements inside of a list, we can use a single for loop. What if we have a list inside of this list? Let's say I'm having something like this. I will be having one more list here inside of this. Inside of this whole list, we are having three different lists. 1, 2 is one list, 3, 4 is one list, and 4, 5 is another list. But if I wanted to access this many number of lists inside of another list, how I can do that? Let me give this name as list as L. Now, if I wanted to access the elements inside of this list, I can use for I in L, and I can print the value of I. As and when I print the value of I can only get the result of 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5 as like a list. Now you can see the output as 1, 2 as one list, 3, 4 as one list, 4, 5 as another list. But what if I don't want the result as like this? I want the result as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At the time we need to iterate through this list also, then only we can actually get that particular result. So for that, now you can see in this I only I am having this 1, 2, 3 values. So let me make that clear, and I am using this f string I equal to I am printing the value of I. You can see the result. So in this I value only I am having this list. So what I need to do is that I need to iterate through this I and print the values. So let's go ahead and do that as well. So for j in, I need to iterate through I. Because of that reason I can mention I here, and I will print the value j here. So you can see the output as we are getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. And if we comment this out, now if I execute this, I can able to see the result as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What we are doing here is that initially we were traveling through this list and finding the elements of this element. In this list we are getting the values of I. So these values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5 as list, that what we are getting. But if you wanted to get the indivisible elements, we are again traveling through this I. Now we can able to get these particular values. So this is what the result that we are getting from this particular inner nested loops. So I hope by this two examples, you can able to understand nested loops and specifically nested for loop. Let us go ahead and see one more real-time example, that is of multiplication table. I wanted to print the multiplication table as 1 into 1 is equal to 1 till I wanted to print 1, not 1, 10 into 10 is equal to 100. I wanted to print all the values, all the multiplication results like this. So let us go ahead and write code for that. So first I am traveling through for I in range. I want the range of 1 to 10. I wanted to execute the code from 1 to 10. Because of that reason, I am mentioning 11. With this for loop, I can get only the values 1 to 10. So, but what I wanted to do is that I want 1 for 10 times, 2 for 10 times, 3 for 10 times. Like that, I want all these 10 values 10 different number of times. For that, I will be using one more loop, j in range 1 to 11. I want 10 times. Because of that reason, I am mentioning the range 1 to 11. So now what I will be printing is I am printing the multiplication table. I am using f string here and I am printing I, not directly I. So I am printing I multiplication with j, and the result I need to get is I multiplied with j. If I execute this, I can see the result 1 into 1 is equal to 1 and so on. I have the first one table here and I have the two table here and I have three table, four table, five table, six table, seventh table, eighth table, ninth table and 10th table. I can able to get the result 10 into 10 equal to 100. Now we can able to print this multiplication tables from one table till 10 table. So by this example, I hope you can able to understand how we can use nested loops. And when nested loops are used when we wanted to execute a loop itself more number of times. So I hope you have understood all these things explained in this video. If that is true and you have found this video interesting, hit the like button and subscribe for more this kind of videos. In our next video, we will discuss about nested while loops. To stay updated, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell icon. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.